Moving on to the first speaker for the evening, he's the CEO and co founder of SkillLync, an e learning platform, and he has years of corporate experience in Cummins Incorporated. He had his master's degree from University of Wisconsin-Madison. With great enthusiasm, I invite Mr. Suryanarayanan Paneerselvam, sir, and I call upon my colleague Ayush to take the session forward.
Thank you, Vidhi, for the wonderful introduction of our esteemed guests. Hello, sir. My name is Ayusham Tiwari, and I'll be your host for today.
Hey Ayush, thank you so much, and looking forward to speak with everybody.
Yeah, sir. Ever since we released the poster announcing you as one of the speakers for Anubhuti, we've been flooded with questions from budding entrepreneurs and students all over India, especially given the USP of SkillLync. They're all excited to hear all about it and your journey as an entrepreneur. So, without wasting any further time, I think we should just delve right into it. So, taking from the top, I'd first like to ask that every entrepreneur, everyone who comes up with a solution for a problem that many people are facing, at some point in time, that person has personally encountered that problem. So, was it the same case for you as well? Did you face a problem in your academic life that later inspired SkillLync?
Absolutely. So just to kind of give a overview of what skilling does, right, to folks who are listening to this talk. So skilling essentially is building an alternate platform for engineering education. So what do I mean by that? Right? We believe that there is a gap between what industry requires and what the academia essentially provides. And this is one of the reasons why we lack employable engineers. And that's what we try to solve for. And we don't do it only for like computer science. We do for the whole broad spectrum of engineering, starting from mechanical, electrical, electronics, civil, computer science, and pretty much we have some of the best electric vehicle, autonomous vehicle courses, not only in India but across the world, right? Now, sticking to your question, well, essentially yes. So I graduated in 2011 from undergrad in Chennai, and I quickly realized that as a mechanical engineer, I did not learn what the industries were looking for, and how did I know that? So, as any engineer, I graduated and got a job with Cognizant Technologies, CTS, at that point in time. But I did not want to kind of, as a mechanical engineer, I did not want to spend my time working on a computer science platform, right? So I wanted to work on something which is more related to mechanical engineering. And then I realized, okay, probably let's do a few internships and understand what's going on. When I started working on a few internships, I realized that probably the kind of, if you want to do product development in engineering, especially in mechanical, electrical, electronics, or civil, have you needed to solve real world industry oriented problems by using computational tools. And the gap with that was, we learn theory but we don't learn how to use computational tools to apply the theory to solve real world problems. And that's a problem statement that I kind of went and figured out, and probably after that went on to do my master's in University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then went on to work for Cummins. At both UW-Madison and at Cummins, I realized the same problem, right? Which was grad school and also at work, they essentially expect you to solve real world problems using computational tools, because real world problems are complex. Computational tools allow you to solve complex problems at a faster time frame, and essentially us not understanding those computational tools kind of becomes a roadblock for us being really good engineers. So we started SkillLync because there was this gap, and it was a personal pain point for us. So we essentially started because we felt it, and we felt that we were lucky enough to get into a university like UW-Madison, which provided exposure. But say in India and across the world, education, especially in India, education is your ladder to your socioeconomic stratum, right? Like wherever you are, if you want to kind of go up in the socioeconomic stratum, uh, it, education is the path. And when education is the path, luck cannot be the deciding factor. It should be more predictable. And what we are building is a system and a process that allows you to predict success with education. So
Yes, definitely, Sarah. I agree with you that education is in India is it is specially treated as something that can elevate you to anything you want to achieve in life. But the education policies in India, they're more theoretically centric. They're not teaching us, as you said yourself, that they're not teaching us industry relevant skills. So, what changes according to you need to be there in the current education system? What difference can it make? SkillLync policy, that whatever SkillLync is doing, how can that apply to universities and grad schools, even schools? The National Education Policy of 2020, it's certainly a step in the right direction. But how long do you think it will take to change the current system, to make industry relevant skills the focus of the curriculum?
See, the problem is not a kind of it's not a single, there's no single solution which solves this problem, say, right? Like for example, how do you make something industry relevant? So the first thing is you need to make sure that your curriculum is industry relevant. That's number one, right? How do you make sure? So that is the easiest bit, right? You can essentially partner with a university or have a university, partner with the industry and have a industry panel come and say, okay, these are the skill sets that you need to teach, right? But primarily, that's a few universities are trying to do that. But more importantly, in a large spectrum, what we do is our curriculums are usually do not change for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And when it does not change for 10 years, what happens is the examples that you use to solve thermodynamics problem or a, eigenvector eigen values problem or a differential calculus problems are still over the last decade or last 2 decades problem statements is what you essentially solve as an example. But in 2 decades, the industry moves so fast, right? The problem statements right now are totally different. That's one, right? Changing the curriculum is the easiest bit. The theory essentially stays the same. You don't need to do much changes to your theory. But what kind of, how do you apply this theory to industry oriented problems? That needs to change, right? That's step number one. The second step is essentially, say for example, if you guys go to the US and go do a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in the US, what you will realize is every coursework will have a project, right? In Indian engineering, what we will do is our fourth year will have a final year project, right? Or in a third year, there will be a pre-final year project. So essentially, we end up doing two in the curriculum. We end up doing only two projects, right? So all the other things are exams. So essentially, it's a 16 mark or a 10 mark question that we read in order to kind of get the degree. So incorporating projects as a part of every coursework. So think about it, right? Like every semester we read what, 6 subjects, and that's like 7 semesters, 7 6 are 42, and another three. So almost 42 to 45 projects, right? And if you do that, your resume not only gets better, but you as an individual essentially have a lot more things to learn because you are implementing that. So that's step number two, right? Now, and that's what we at Skilling do, right? Like anybody who takes up a Skilling coursework works on at least 20 projects over a 1 year period, right? That's fundamentally how we are changing things. The step number three is essentially making sure the faculty become more industry relevant, right? uh, so in universities, in Taiwan universities, usually that happens by faculties working on research, which is funded by the industry. So if you're working on research which is funded by the industry, your ability to understand what the industry requires is high. And any research assistant, any student who becomes a research assistant with that professor has the ability to learn that skills. But in tier 2 tier 3 universities, usually professors do not have that industry connect. And if you do not have that industry connect, or if you have not worked in the industry, you do not have an idea of what the industry wants. You only have an idea of how to teach the curriculum and how to make people pass that particular coursework. So those are the things that these are the three steps that we should take, right, in order to make sure at scale our education system moves from not only graduating engineers, a lot of engineers, right? It should essentially become graduating real engineers. So 25% of world's engineering talent is in India, right? Think about it. If 25% of world's engineering talent is in India, how many products are going out of India, right? So we do not have that many products, right? We do not have a smartphone that we can say is in the top three or top five in the world. We do not have a vehicle that we can say that's in the top three or a top five of the world, and essentially infrastructure, and we can essentially lay out services. Yes, definitely, right? We are a good ITS services company thing, but if India needs to grow at a faster pace, we need to build products. Why is that, right? If you look at the GDP of India, 25% of our GDP kind of is in manufacturing and infrastructure, right? The only other big one is agriculture, right? If 25 to 30% of our GDP is in that area, so we need to make sure that we really build good products, right? So that's why it becomes very, very important for all of us to make sure what we teach is more industry relevant, so that people like you, when you graduate, go change the ecosystem, right? You can There will be people out here who will be interested in building their own electric vehicles or contributing to the electric vehicle technology, space tech, aerospace, drone, space tech, infrastructure, right? Much more, right? Biomedical, medical tech. Um, so yeah, that's what we should do, according to me, at least.
Yes, sir. From your last answer, my brain just registered a loads of questions for you, and those are questions that I actually came across from the audience also. We released a document, and there were questions for you. So one of those questions was, as you said, that in America there are projects in every course that we study. So did you find that the curriculum and the coursework and the method of teaching in America, that is more skill oriented rather than the exam oriented pattern in India? Is that the
Yeah.
difference between America and India?
See, I think education system across the world can get better. That's fundamental,
Yeah.
right? What can we compare with education in the US or Western world versus education system in India, right? There are two things. One is in a large part of our education system, what we don't do is we don't see if people understand what we are teaching, right? What do I say about that? Say, for example, in the US, there'll be your grades will not be you will not be graded by a final exam alone, right? Every week, every assignment that is provided will contribute to your grade. So if it is a 3 or 4 month 4 month course, and essentially you have almost 16 to 18 weeks, and you will be working on almost 16 assignments and three midterm exams and probably one final exam, right? And all of this will essentially, and then your assignments or exams will not be like, okay, here's your question paper, you don't refer anything, just answer, right? But out there it will be, you can use your book, there will be an open book test, there will be a take this test to your home and submit it by 3 days, so you can essentially use Google, whatnot, and submit it, right? What this allows is, it allows people to understand what they are solving, right? Rather than only mug up and essentially say, okay, for this particular question, this is the answer, right? Rather than doing that, they essentially allow. So, as an open book test, so say for example, there are three types, right? One is you do not. It's a normal test that we essentially do. The second one is an open book, and the third one is a take it to your home and finish it over a 3 day or a 7 day period. As so, the easiest of these three is essentially you don't get any resources, you come to a class and essentially write a test without, it's a general exam. And as and when it becomes an open book and you go to your home and finish it, it becomes tougher because it's more, the questions are more application oriented questions, where you wouldn't have had the same problem statement in your textbook or in your class, but the theory would have been taught. Now you need to apply that theory into a real world problem. So that's different. That, we can definitely use that. We, especially in this age where Google and internet essentially provides you all the answers that you want to, making people understand how to look for answers and how to essentially look for steps, and from those steps how to derive answers, right? So that becomes a very, very important tool for individuals. So that's something that we should definitely do.
Yeah, yes, sir, I completely agree. As you said, sir, previously, that almost 25% of the engineering population in the world, India is producing. And India is producing engineers at a faster rate than any other country in the world. But what generally happens is that by setting a small proportion of successful personalities like Mr. Sundar Pichai or Mr. Satya Nadella, people often accept a lot from themselves and others as well. So, do you think that currently, if today's stats are to be taken in account, do you think today's Indian students can lead the IT sector globally, not at the helm, not at the top, but in the workforce? Do you think Indian students are that skill oriented from just from the grad school only?
See, I think what we do at India is we have really good primary education, right? All our schooling, we essentially focus on a lot on math, physics, chemistry, and sometimes biology as well, right? That sets us up very, very strongly, right? So even if undergrad does not do justice sometimes, what we our ability to kind of have very strong fundamentals, and even undergrad, right? The theoretical stuff that we learn is very, very strong. Now, to kind of lead multiple companies, obviously, right? There are really good people leading some of the best companies in the world. How do we do that at scale, right? How do we do that in India, right? Rather than in the world, right? Like, how do we build companies in India? How do we build from India to the world? That's something that should happen and needs to happen at a faster pace, right? And the answer to that question is definitely we have the skills. We just need the exposure, right? And that exposure needs to be so we have the knowledge. We need to have the exposure and the skills to apply that knowledge to kind of crack some of the important problems that the world needs to be solving.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know if I
Uh,
answered that question, but the answer is, if we have the talent, and we just need to kind of provide exposure.
Yes, definitely. And judging from your previous answer also, people who are exposed to knowledge at that level, exposed to exposed to the company and the industry sector at that level, they generally find that the work environment and others that is better outside. That's the reason for the major brain drain that we have. But moving apart from that, aside from that topic, I'd like to ask you that for any venture to be successful, the top priority is a dedicated team that turns the vision of the team into reality. So, at the time that you were building SkillLync along with your co-founders, what parameters did you keep in your mind while choosing the founding team, the founding members of SkillLync? What went into your mind? What went into your thought process?
Oh, see, uh, with respect to what did we think about founding team, right? Like, see, Sarang and I were not from Taiwan colleges in India. So, as and when we so just to kind of give you an history, so we went to grad school in the US, finished our masters, went on to work in the US for almost 4 years. I worked for almost 4 years. Sarang worked for almost 6 years. So quit our jobs and moved back to India in 2016. And so 2016, 2017, 2018, while we were looking for product market fit. So 2016, 2017, it was, we did not hire pretty much. We were still figuring out product market fit. 2018, we started figuring out product market fit, right? And one of the things that for us worked was students who took up our coursework were our first people who kind of came in and started helping us out in building the company, right? So especially in sales, uh, and support, right? So this is how we started building. But over a period of time, there are multiple phases in building a company, right? And there are multiple ways that you can build a company. For us, we were a education company at the end of the day. So the only thing that we needed to provide very very well was our ability to provide good quality content and good quality support. So good quality content essentially enabled us we were enabled by the instructors that we chose, so they needn't be in our payroll, right? And support needed to be in our payroll so that we can provide support at any point in time. See, for example, if you have a question, we need to answer that question right now. If we say, okay, put it in a forum, and we will somebody will answer over a 2-day period, your thirst for solving the particular problem will go away. So that's something that we focused on. So the best people who started supporting well was a student who we started supporting strongly, and they became our employees, and they started supporting in the same manner that we started supporting. So that was the 2018 phase. Then probably as we moved into 2020, 2021, right? Then we were already at a phase where we were becoming a decently big company, but um, 2021 was when we started hiring a leadership team. So as you build a company, right, there are multiple kind of you don't build a team for $1 billion team on day one, right? You build a team that essentially takes you from 0 to 1, right? Then from another this out of the 0 to 1 team, there will be people who will graduate to 1 to 10, and but they might need more mentorship at the 1 to 10 stage because they have not done that, right? Usually, people who have done 0 to 1 wouldn't have done 1 to 10, and so you need people who have done 1 to 10 who should come in and mentor the people who are in the 0 to 1 stage, right? So you need to make sure the 0 to 1 people are people who are able to absorb and do not have ego, right? Especially in a startup. Say for example, right now we are 2000 people. Our employee strength is 2000 people, and we were 200 probably in 2021 beginning, right? So if you're growing at that kind of a pace, you need people. There will be immediate people. People will not grow at the same pace as the organization, right? So that some people will grow, some people will not. So you need mentors at different stages of the time, where you bring the leadership for that level, right? 1 to 10, there's a leadership for that level who can essentially take us to 1 to 10. For 10 to 100, there will be another leadership. From 100 to 1000, there will be another leadership. And in this phase, right, 0 to 1 people will get better, will be mentored at 1 to 10, but during this phase, they will get better and learn better so that in the 10 to 100, they can become leaders, right? It's
Yeah,
not that if you're a leader at 0 to 1, you essentially become a follower at 1 to 10, and then you cannot become a leader. It's just that in the 1 to 10 phase, you learn more, and your thirst for learning increases, and then you also become a leader at the 10 to 100 or the 100 to 1000. So um, that's how we have thought about it. We have always looked for people. There are three things that we look for, right? People who put in the hard work, people who essentially persevere, and people who are essentially honest. So these are the three things. Like credentials at the end of the day come secondary. These are three things that we have looked at, um, and yeah, and in the especially in the 0 to 1 to 1 to 10 phase, these three things will go very very well. At the 10 to 100 phase, probably have you done what we need to do before? That kind
yeah,
of comes into play, and that if you've done that, then essentially you become very significant. Especially this is I'm speaking about the bigger leadership at the founding team.
yeah. So what I inferred from that is you believe in the philosophy of that good teams, better teams, and best teams. They're not hired; they're built. It's a relationship over time, and it grows.
Yeah,
and the structural that and the structure that you explained about skilling, that was really fascinating. So, sir, as you studied in the University of Wisconsin-Madison, did the environment there, the exposure to people from multiple backgrounds, different countries, did that environment help you to create a better work environment for everyone at SkillLync? How did that experience help you in creating this company?
See, my even peers from India who were in the US while I studied, right? Especially every one of them that I worked with were definitely at least 10x brighter, smarter, and intelligent, and that kind of helped me to look up to them and put more efforts in kind of saying, okay, I should get better. A better version of me should be there, right? So that effort out there helped me build a discipline of, okay, to get better, you need to kind of have a brilliant discipline of hard work without worrying about
Yeah.
the results, and the results will happen. So that was the same principle that we brought in India, and with respect to the culture, at the end of the day, getting work done is the fundamental thing, right? One of the things that when people think about flexibility at work, and what they think about is only um, timing of hours, but essentially it's not about timing of hours. Flexibility of work is essentially how you get work done at the end of the day, is what defines that flexibility. So it can be, you might be a morning person, you can essentially start in the morning, finish by noon, and vice versa, but is the work done? But if the work, and you can be another version where you you come into the company at like 9 a.m. and leave at 12, but there is no work getting done, right? It does not mean you putting your hours in alone does not mean that you've worked. You getting work done essentially means you're getting work done, right? And that's how simple that we have kept it. And and over a period of time we have built metrics and processes that kind of measure that as well. But yeah, this is how we started, at least.
Yeah, what you mean to say is that, as you explained your early days in the University of Wisconsin-Madison, that if you're the best in your class, you're in the wrong class. We need constant motivation and constant competition to better ourselves, and you have applied that to your company as well. Sir, you explained, as you told us, that you've worked in the corporate sector also. You were a product engineer at Cummins Incorporated. So, getting exposed to that kind of environment, we've talked about the academic aspect and the university aspect of experience. What about the corporate experience that you had? Did that help you in creating skilling better work environment?
Oh yeah, definitely. So Cummins was one of the best experience that any engineer can get. They were working on state-of-the-art technologies. They showed how actual engineering was done, and they were inventing stuff every day, and it would be a process. And it would be a process of, okay, you design, you ideate, you design, you simulate, you test, and you build a prototype, and you do manufacturing, and you in this life cycle, essentially, there are so many things that you need to learn, and you kind of come across. And that was an amazing experience. And the people again out there were, if grad school was 10x better people, this was 100x better people than me. So always had to kind of always had the opportunity to learn. And that's what we try to do at SkillLync, right? Like, we try to build an atmosphere where people can learn from each other. We want each other to, it will be a competitive atmosphere, but it will be an atmosphere where you are always on the lookout for how you can learn, rather than essentially say, hey, this is not my work, right? So that's something that we have, I wouldn't say we have focused on. It has come kind of natural for us.
Yeah, you've just learned from your experiences and applied that subconsciously. So, as you said that your you were a product engineer at Cummins Incorporated, and you were working, developing, making, and researching projects related to the mechanical side of things, the engineering side of things. But now that you're the co-founder as well as the CEO of SkillLync, you've had to learn a lot about marketing and sales and public relations. So, was that transition tough for you? And how did you make that transition, going from the engineer and the technical side to the marketing and sales side?
See, fundamentally, I like what I do. So when you like what you do, uh, and you want to, and so in the initial days, it was not like I need to learn sales or I need to learn marketing. It was more like how do I get students enrolled in our coursework? How do I essentially get more students know about our coursework? And over a period of time, realize that's solving those two statements is essentially sales and marketing, right? It initially we realized, okay, Facebook essentially has an ad platform that allows people to put ads and allows companies to amplify for their offerings to their users. So that's how we learn marketing, and similarly sales is as you get more leads, how do you reach out to these people? So you need to call, inform them about the coursework and help them understand what the coursework is about. So uh, so that was very intuitive for us. But over a period of time, what we have also done is we have understood that there should be specific folks who run that particular teams, right? So we started hiring the right people in the leadership to kind of focus on those two, sales and marketing, and for other finance, any other function that we essentially build. So right now my core focus is how to identify the right people who can essentially scale the company from probably 10 to 100, right? That's
Yeah.
my problem statement right now. So, and what I need to do is build a team that executes that, and also make sure the team has the uh, resources, and I'm able to kind of remove roadblocks for them as they go and achieve those things. So so yeah, at the end of the day, it's about how you do you have how hard is the problem, and how much do you want to solve that problem, right? Becomes that particular. So those are the two questions that you need to answer at the end of the day.
Yeah, right. What I can infer from your answer is that you're more focused on the human resources side of things right now, building a strong team that can scale your company to a larger level, right?
Yeah. So exactly. So so your question was how did I transition from
Yeah,
product
right.
engineer to kind of entrepreneurship, right? See, as I worked in the company, one of the fundamental things that I learned at Cummins was hard work essentially never fails, right? And this I also learned at grad school. While my peers were 10x better, and while my at grad school and 100x better at work, one thing that I realized was as I put more amount of time and effort to learn those things, I was able to kind of also contribute to the team's cause, right? At that point in time I realized, so if I and that's what entrepreneurship is also about. Can you put in the hard work to kind of do what you want to do? Because at the beginning of it, the solving the solution for the problem that you want to solve will look very very rosy, but to get to the solution, which is to start to kind of implement, execute your idea, and to get to the solution phase, it's a tough thing, right? So how do you navigate that? And to navigate that, you essentially need one fundamental principle that can take you through. My fundamental principle was, okay, if I don't know, I can essentially put in the effort and time, and that is available with me, and I can figure it out. So that's how I transitioned.
Okay. I'm certain that that kind of philosophy will be very helpful to everyone who's listening right now. And my next question to you, sir, is that while you were answering my one of the previous questions, you said that initially in around 2018, right, you were building a community as such that you supported students and they supported you back. That's how you built the community larger. So in the rapidly growing technological phase that we are in right now, how does SkillLync cater to all of its students currently? How do you design the courses, and who designs them exactly?
Great question. See, all our coursework. So first, we have a team that researches what are the areas that are very grow. What are the areas that are growing fast but do not have the talent? So that's the first thing. Say, for example, semiconductor industry, right? Or your VLSI industry, or your embedded systems industry, medical technology, telecom. So these are areas where your annual growth rate for talent is very high, but there is not enough talent in the market. Right, that's one thing. That's our first thing that we need to look at. Then we go to the industries that are looking for this talent. So we partner with them and understand what their talent requirements are. What are the skill sets that they want to they want that talent to know. So once we do this, then the third step is partner with the right experts in the industry to develop the coursework. So, and as and when we essentially develop this, it becomes we need to make sure students enroll in the coursework so that after they enroll and graduate, they are able to come to the talent recruitment partners and get recruited. So this is the whole cycle that we build.
Yeah, kind of like a full circle. You went
Yeah,
to the students, and now the students, and then to the companies who told you that what they want in the students. You taught that to the students, and now they're hired in the same industries. That is
absolutely.
wonderful, sir. That is wonderful. Now, sir, the next question is that there is a preconceived notion among students that it is very difficult to get placed in the core branches. uh, that is why most people today they're moving towards the software side of things, and as you said, that the VLSI embedded systems and the electronic aspects of things, that is also very growing very fast. So people are more inclined towards that. They even choose colleges lower than what they expected because they don't want to get core branches as their core subjects. So if students had some kind of help in their academics, some kind of assurance that at the end of their undergrad they will be placed. Do you think that there will be such an assurance in the coming years? The placement aspect of things in the engineering, will they change in the coming years?
I'm not sure if the engineering colleges will essentially do. What we at Skilling do is for core, especially core engineering domains like mechanical, electrical, electronics, civil, and biotech. What we do is uh, we have very strong number of job opportunities. For example, we right now have a mandate to fill almost 10,000 jobs over this year alone, right? In core engineering domain. So we are very confident that over a period of time, we can essentially guarantee everybody who comes and takes up a skilling coursework that in their core domain they will be able to succeed.
Okay, sir. In one of your interviews, while I was preparing for this talk show, in one of your interviews, I heard that SkillLink is also developing technologies like electric vehicle technologies and many more, along with catering to the needs of the students regarding the industry relevant skills. So, could you tell us more about the technologies that you're developing?
Yeah, great. See, we fundamentally believe that for an education company to teach something, they need to have very good understanding on what they teach, and your ability to teach only happens when you develop it yourself, right? And say, for example, that's the main problem that colleges are not solving for. So if we are essentially solving that we need to develop our own electric vehicle or autonomous vehicle or drones or whatnot, right? So that's why we essentially have a very strong team. So we have almost three PhDs who work in our research and development, where they, along with the students who take up our coursework, work on projects like building a SUV and with electric and IC engine models, working on a scooter which is which can be electrically powered, then working on autonomous technologies. And as in what this allows is, not only do we work on projects that can be built, students get an opportunity to work on these projects as well. So with an industry mentor, so that's a double thing that we do. And then there are a lot of other technologies that we are working on. So yeah, this is one of the very, very focus areas for us at Skill.
Yeah, hitting two bullseyes with just one arrow, right? Developing new technologies along with giving the students a chance to be a part of a project.
Exactly.
Wonderful, sir. Sir, in one of your interviews, you also said that companies that come to recruit people in the colleges and otherwise masters also, they look for something more generally than what is taught at that undergrad level. So, if for everyone that's listening to the talk show right now, what are the things that we can do to make ourselves employable? Like on our own, skilling is there to help us definitely, but on our own, what can we do to become more employable?
See, fundamentally, I believe one of the things that every engineer needs to work on is have at least 3 or 4 projects outside their academic career, right? And these should be very meaty projects, and this should usually, in the age that they are in, it also should be usually using some kind of computational tool, right? Why is this important? So a project allows you to take whatever you've learned at undergrad and apply in real life, right? And like, if you are working on a computational tool, you are not restricted by the problem, the scale of the problem. If I'm essentially saying I need to build a Wankel engine, right? In a physical infrastructure, I'm restricted by the scale, right? There's cost associated with it. There's purchase and whatnot, right? Like, but in a simulated environment, you can essentially build and you have the same kind of knowledge because you need to read it. You need to read as much as you can to kind of start implementing it. So, work on projects, 3 to 4 projects. Use computational tools in these projects and solve good problems. Right? It does not need to be innovative problems. It does not need to be big problems. It needs to be problems that are very, very present, which is it should be real world problems, and that's essentially what it should matter.
Yeah, right. So basically, more than focusing on the marks, what you're saying for us is we should focus more on implementing what we learn. That way,
Oh
we
yeah,
can learn even faster.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my next question to you is that entrepreneurship, especially in today's world, entrepreneurship is increasingly becoming a sought after option for undergrad students. There are examples of people who founded companies while they were studying in college, and those companies are big successes. They may not be first time success, they may not be one time hits, but there are certainly companies that have great successes that started in undergrad while they were studying in the undergrad college. And then there are people like you who went for masters abroad, went into corporate careers, gained the experience, gained the real life corporate experience, and then founded their companies. So, which approach, according to you, is better for the students in India right now? Hitting right off the bat, going into the startup world, or going outside, gaining experience in the real world, and then starting their own ventures?
See, the time, the timing is not the most important aspect of when you want to start up, right? The most important aspect of it is, do you have a problem that you want to solve, right? And it can be
Yeah.
you might have a problem right out of college, right? You might have a problem 2 years straight out of college. You might have a problem 10 years. You might have a problem 30 years out of college. It does not matter. But what is the problem statement that you believe is very, very important to solve for you and for a lot of people? That's number one, right? And if you solve that alone for you and for say 100 people or 200 people very, very well, and then scaling it becomes very easy. So when is not a question. The question is what, right? What are you trying to solve, right? And how are you trying to solve? And then comes when, right? Usually, yeah. So that's how I would think about it.
Yeah, but the problem that arises, and that one of these problems I have experienced myself on a personal level, that coming up with a novel problem to solve or coming up with a novel idea to give to the world, that is very difficult nowadays. Everything that we can think of, somebody or someone else is already doing it, or at some scale, they're already building it. So, how do we contribute in that environment? What can we do in that environment?
Every problem that is being solved today. So say for example, Byju's is a $20 billion company, right?
Yeah.
And Byju's is the not only India's best edtech company or biggest edtech company, it's world's biggest edtech company. The problem that they are solving is for the K-12 education and probably test prep, right? The problem is still not fully solved. Probably that problem is only solved 2% of it, right? Uh, and you can think about it in the social network aspects as well, right? Say for example, Instagram or Facebook. There, right? If you're thinking about a particular problem there, so TikTok was only probably 5 6 years, all right, and you'll see that happening. So if any problem that you want to solve, there is always a solution, right? Ola cabs, before Ola cabs, there was a taxi service that can where you can phone, call, and book. How you solve that problem is becomes the important aspect of it, right? Ola or Uber allowed it to be solved using an app, right? At that point in time, app was coming up. They tried to solve it using an app, right? Um, for example, so yeah, so that's essentially how you should take a look at it. So do not worry about. See, this is why it becomes very important. So if you have a problem that needs to be solved, and if you think that there is someone else who is already solving that particular problem, right? Then they are not solving it in a better way, because if they had solved it in a better way, you would not have a problem,
Yeah, we would not be facing the same problem. Yeah.
right? So, say for example, you would not have a problem ordering food, right?
Hmm.
You will not have a problem ordering a booking a cab. You might have a problem the cab guy getting cancelled. That's a problem
Yes.
statement that probably you can solve, right? Still,
Yeah.
I don't know how, but it can be solved. So what, say for example, if you have heard about a company called Zepto, which is doing like 10 minutes delivery, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem that they are solving is very, they define the problem very small, right? The problem that they want to solve is provide 10-minute delivery. That's the only problem that they are solving. But what happens is, it does not, your initial problem that you want to solve need not be a big, I want to create a social network for the world. It need not be that. It can be very similar, very small, like I'm providing you a 10-minute delivery. If I'm able to solve that very well for 1,000 to 10,000 people, then I can say, hey, 10-minute delivery is better than your normal deliveries,
Yeah.
and expand my market. And then I can say, okay, for 10-minute delivery, this is the cost, but I can do 30 minutes delivery. I can, and by
Hmm.
the way, I'm doing 10-minute delivery in probably groceries. I can do uh, an hour delivery in electronic items, right?
Right.
What Amazon does in a day, I can do it in an hour or 2 hours or
How?
4 hours, right? So
Right.
do people need that? I do not know. But essentially, there's some concept called as, um, see, you might, if you guys are into entrepreneurship, it's called TAM, which is total addressable market, right? The market that your solution will address, right? And how big is the market? Big is the market? Now, to start with, your market need not be very big, and this is why, uh, yeah, people will say you need to have a very big market, right? It need not be very big. It can be very small, but your ability to expand the market over a period of time needs to always be there, right? So I'll kind of give you an example. There was an employee, a colleague of mine, who essentially said, hey, I have a idea, right? The idea was, cobbler services on demand, right? So essentially,
Okay.
if you just there'll be an app or a phone number where you can essentially ask a call for a cobbler, and they will come home and stitch your shoes or slippers and go right in 1 hour. But see, if you think about this, you'll be like, oh, okay, who is going to use it, right? I'll just go buy another slipper or whatnot. Slippers are so easy to replace. I'll buy another slipper. But if only 100 people, or even if only across India 10,000 people want that service, if 10,000 people like that service and are using once every month, right? What you can do after 10,000 people is you can say, hey, okay, guys, I'm doing corporate service. By the way, you're using me regularly. Now I have launched my own essentially shoe or slippers, right? From all my learnings,
Yeah.
I've launched my own slippers. Do you want that? Right now, essentially, you're not a cobbling on-demand cobbler. You're a on-demand. You're a footwear company, right?
Manufacturer
And
of shoe.
manufacturer.
Yeah. Right.
Now, if footwears essentially go well, then you can say, hey, okay, you're using my footwears. Why not my shorts? Why not my? So you can become an apparel company, right? So
Yeah. Right.
Nike started with shoes, but
Nike.
Nike essentially is doing everything, right? Like, so your ability to expand your addressable market at every stage of your company is how you need to think about it. So you don't need to solve a unbelievably big idea on day one. You can solve a very, very small idea, but very, very well in day one. And over a period of time, your ability to kind of take that small idea and solve for multiple smaller ideas in adjacent areas is how you build a very big company.
Yeah. While you were explaining that we can go from one step to next step, the same example came to mind. The Nike, they were essentially a shoe company, and then they built it into an apparel company full. And other
So
points that
Nike,
yeah,
so
right.
just to let you know, Nike was not even a foot manufacturer, right?
Yeah, they
They were
exported from Japan and then just sold.
a reseller,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So they
Reseller.
essentially were a reseller, right? And
Yeah,
from
right.
reseller to going into a manufacturer, right? So that's
Yeah,
how
right.
you yeah. So yeah.
Yes, sir. And other point that I picked up from your answer was that by the example of Instagram, Facebook, and then TikTok came, and then there were already taxi services, and then Ola, Uber came. So what you meant to say was that your problem might not be novel, but you can already innovate on the existing solutions. You can provide something better. So, sir, moving on to my last question for the evening. What other innovations can we expect from SkillLync in the future? What other problems are you looking to solve in the near future?
See, I think see if you think about education fundamentally, right? Uh, what we are learning usually, I believe you guys all have books, right, that you study for your exams, right? And all these books have example problems, right?
Yeah, right.
And all these example problems are essentially, if you see, are very generalistic example problems, right? And not realistic current world example problems, right? So what we at SkillLync are thinking about is what will be the future learning resource, right? How will the future learning resource look like? So right now it's only books, but if you want to learn particular concept, you might go to YouTube and Google that particular concept. But in the future, your book alone will be in a multi-dimensional format, right? It will have content, theory. It will have an example which is more industry relevant, and it will have images, 2D animations, 3D animations, videos, AR, VR, and everything. But essentially, your book will be a physical copy, but books will have QR codes which can essentially show you all these aspects of it, right? So that's something that we are very excited about.
Yeah, you've got me excited about such a kind of book as well. Thank you, sir. We had a wonderful time with you, and I hope that everyone who was watching got to learn something valuable. And we some final words, sir, from your side.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed all the questions. And all I would say is, again, a lot of people say this, so just pursue a passion, and the passion need not be like world acquiring passion, right? It can be a passion that you are passionate about. It can be only a problem that you are facing and you are solving a problem for you. And if you're just solving a problem for you and you want to become big, you become an influencer or a creator, right? But if that is not only your specific problem and 100 people have, that becomes a company by itself. So there are multiple opportunities, and you don't need to alone build companies, but you can essentially join companies and also contribute and see what problems. Usually, as you graduate and go to companies, pick companies that solve important problems, because there are a lot of important problems to be solved. And picking a company that solves important problems allows you to learn really good stuff at a faster pace. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. I myself and my team of ISTSC Manit was honored to have you on the stage of Anubhuti 2022. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day.
Yeah.